welcome to Ask Gwen, everyone. And if you hear a little fangirl voice coming on, that's because I'm honored and thrilled that semi-famous podcaster Jen Hemphill said yes to little old me, and she runs a financial podcast called Her Money Matters, which bad podcast host I haven't listened to in a very long time. I need to subscribe again and find that podcast. And Jen also recently published a book about her story growing up and her money mistakes, I guess you would call it. And so I'm going to share a couple money stories of my own, and we're going to actually talk about the impacts of the education system and money, believe it or not, on this podcast with Jen Hemphill, because I'm working on a final project for my schooling that I want to focus on the impacts of special ed and the financial impacts of special ed. So Jen is going to be actually part of my homework assignment, so I hope she doesn't mind that. So this podcast is going to be a little bit different, but it's all going to be centered around money, which I don't feel scary about talking about, and we're just going to take it away. So welcome, Jen, and tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much. You are so sweet how you introduced me. That touched my heart. So I really, really appreciate that. It's an honor being here. And I'm really in awe of what you do and the success that you've had, everything that you have achieved. That doesn't go unnoticed. So kudos to you. So a little bit about my podcast is called Her Money Matters. And even though his money matters too, I focus with professional busy women. And really the podcast it's twofold. I have interviews where I interview amazing women and men as well. And we talk about money stories. We talk to financial experts, because even though I'm in the field, I don't know everything, right? So we focus on that. And I also do solo episodes because I get a lot of questions from my audience. So I address those where it's just me and the listener listening. So that's really my focus, is to provide a comfortable spot for women to go and learn about money, because unfortunately money is taboo. It's hard to talk about for men and women, but I wanted to make sure that women had a safe spot and a comfortable spot for them to learn money and not feel like because a lot of women are tough on themselves and feel like they feel a lot of shame and guilt around things, all things money. So I want to make sure that I have a spot where they can feel comfortable and can learn about money.
And I am just going to put it right out there that I was gifted by my dad, and I'm going to say gifted by my dad this morning, a $2,000 e-bike. Yes, I said e-bike, and yes, I said $2,000, and so that is on its way to my house right now. And I'm so excited because I got rid of my bike, so now the process is finally taking place, and I appreciate my dad. We've talked about this. He said, do you want to sell your bike because you can't control a 30-speed bike? And I think we should sell it. We actually gifted that to my BFF, and she's happy as a clam. And the next step up is I am getting an e-bike, which wasn't cheap. And I said to my dad, I said, we'll make that my main Christmas present. His email back to me was, nice offer, Win, but let me think about that. And so I'm like, okay, you can think about that, but I'm just saying the price of a bike is not cheap. So although I will have fun and I will enjoy this e-bike, but when it comes to biking and getting a new bike for anyone, why a bike's so expensive, I'll never figure that one out. But
it is. It can be expensive.
It can be. And so let's talk about your book and why you wrote that, because you started your podcast, Her Money Matters, before you wrote the book.
Yes. So really, in all disclosure, I didn't really plan at that time to write a book. So the story, really the background story is, as you know, I've had this podcast, and I guess it's almost 2 years ago, a small traditional publisher approached me to write a book. And my first response, because in my mind, I hadn't planned to write a book, because what I see all around me is everybody's writing the books. And I'm like, I don't want to do what everybody does. That's just how I think. I'm that rebel. And so he asked me if I wanted to write a book. And my first thought was like, did he realize I'm a podcaster? Because I love to talk. That's why I have a podcast. But then when I started really thinking about it and really what an honor it was for a publisher to approach me and say, hey, do you want to write a book? I sat down and really thought, can I really commit to this at this point? My husband is active duty military, and he was actually getting ready to deploy for a year. So I had to really think it through with my boys, my family commitments, my business and everything. Is it doable? How can I make this book happen? So I thought through it, and I went for it. And what I decided to do with the book is I didn't want to create or write a book that was how to budget, how to get out of debt, how to save more, because those things have been addressed. But really what I did was I created a book that focused on what's not addressed in financial education or financial literacy. And that's why the subtitle is called The Missing Truths from Traditional Money Advice. And it's based on my experience growing up, what I saw. Because growing up, I saw a lot of a lack of money. A lot of my parents would always say, we can't afford it, we don't have the money. And I knew going forward as an adult that I wanted to be in a better financial position than they were at that time. So I definitely devoured, not literally, but just reading the personal finance books and really becoming educated on how to manage money. So I felt very confident on how to manage money, and life went on. I met my husband, got married. I took over the finances. There was some debt that we had, started tackling it. I was a great saver. I was confident, you know what, we've got this. Well, truth be told, 10 years into our marriage, I was looking at our finances and I didn't really see the needle move, meaning we weren't in a bad financial spot, but we weren't really progressing as fast as I wanted to, meaning we were still in debt. We were actually, unfortunately, had borrowed from our retirement, depleted our emergency funds countless of times. So that really sent me on a journey to dig deep as to why is that? If I know all these things, if I read these personal finance books, if I applied all this advice that personal finance experts, why aren't we further? So also I had a lot of thoughts of shame and guilt because friends and family were asking me for advice just because they saw me as the smart one with money. But yet I knew what was going on financially, so it brought me a lot of guilt and shame with that. So fortunately, once I started a journey in digging deep, what was going on, I stumbled upon a book by the author of T. Harv Eker that's called The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And that book really opened up a whole new world that I didn't really consider when it comes to our money. And that is the mindset. So remember I mentioned that growing up, I heard a lot of, we can't afford it, we don't have the money. Well, as an adult, even though financially we were better, we were in a good spot, I still had those thoughts. So what happened with that? I would not inadvertently, because of those thoughts, I felt like somehow we would deplete our emergency funds, because in my mind, well, we can't really, I didn't see myself in a better financial spot with those thoughts, right? Even though I felt confident, and it sounds contradictory, right? It sounds contradictory. Even though I felt I knew my stuff, there was stuff in terms of personal finance, there was an area that I didn't know, and that was the mindset. So that was really a huge, so in my book, what I cover is what the missing truths. So that is the mindset. I cover confidence. I cover some areas of budgeting that get people stuck. So I do talk a little bit about budgeting, but not how to budget. So I cover those, what I consider those missing truths.
And I am just going to congratulate you one more time, because I was listening to a podcast that you on, and the interviewer was fabulous, by the way. I can't remember the name of the financial podcast that you on, but this book hit #1. So congratulations on that.
Oh,
and I don't
thank
know if
you.
It's still at #1, but at the time it was #1, and you were jumping out of your skin when it hit #1. You said, I am jumping out of my skin. A lot of people needed this. A lot of people need the podcast. God knows I do. And now I need the book too. And because money is a taboo subject. And my dad and I had open conversations about money. And he, as I said, sent me the whole kit and caboodle of my e-bike and didn't block out the price of that e-bike. So I know how much my e-bike is. And e-bikes are the latest and greatest technology, but at the same time, he wasn't afraid to share it with me that, look, I'm gifting you expensive e-bike, $2,000, and this is it. We're going to be using this e-bike, and I told him, no restocking fee at $400, because if we send it back, they're going to have to restock it. And I made a commitment to myself, if I get this gifted, this e-bike, there will be no restocking fee. And that's what I told him this morning, and I gave him a hug, because I'm like, nope, you're not sending back. You're not restocking fee, because this is going to be my new toy.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. I love hearing that you and your father can have open conversations about money. That is fantastic. Yeah. A lot of people, that's a hard part, to have conversations, whether with their parents, with their spouses. So it's really, really important to have, because you don't know each other's fears, or you don't know. It's just like with anything, communication is so key.
Communication is so key, and I personally have had my own bank account since I was 10, and he co-signed it with me. My dad co-signed it with me, and still to this day he can see when I make payments on my credit card. He doesn't check my credit card, but he can still see when I make payments or when I'm low on funding, and occasionally ask me, do you need funding? So I think that's a great concept to start with your kids, to talk about money and get the money grows on trees aspect out the door, because money doesn't grow on trees, even though we wish we had money tree in our backyard. And Jen, with your husband being in the active military, that you wish you had a money tree, and you got to go and do some stuff.
Jan.
So
tell me more about, well, we can talk about that later. Sorry, I was going to ask you something.
I was going to ask you, in the book, you, because I know you're public with this, in the book, you say, my parents were robbed, my parents were robbed in Mexico, I believe, and all
in Colombia.
your homes sound quite friendly. It wasn't in Mexico. It was in your hometown.
Yes. Yeah, so that was a part of my money story. So basically, I grew up, I'm from Colombia originally. My dad's American, my mom's from Colombia, and I was born in Colombia. And early on in life, and I'm aging myself here, but early in the late 1970s, early 80s, in that time frame, Colombia was it was very insecure in terms of, there's still crime, obviously. There's crime everywhere. But really, this money story behind that is we had a flat tire and off the highway, and this was the time before cell phones and before roadside assistance, before any of that. And what I learned that night was the robbers were trying to rob us money, but my parents didn't have money, right? They didn't have any. They had some cents and some coins. They did take some jewelry, like the wedding ring and this type of thing. But so it really brought me the feeling of even having money. It was a bad thing because the current, the robbers wanted money. So that started a little bit in my childhood. You know what? Having money can be a good thing, but it can be a bad thing because you can get robbed. So those are just little thoughts, even though I was maybe 6 years old at the time or 5. But it was just an experience that we had that, if you show money, if you flaunt like jewelry and that type of thing, you can get robbed, right? So that was how I felt at that time, right? And it just impacted me. So I'll share that in the book and how it impacted me.
And so it's so funny because my mom grew up she was an immigrant here, and she immigrated here for love, let's be honest. And my biological mom grew up in the Bahamas, and my aunt keeps telling me, do not wear your Cartier, my mom's Cartier, Rolex watch, because my aunt, who's a U.S. tax attorney, is so afraid of that watch being taken from me. And it's like, okay, I see where you're coming from, because she's still down there, and that part of the country is so corrupt, and that part of the country, they unfortunately bribe the government, and this is public knowledge. And when I went down the last in 2009, I'm like, if I never come back to the Bahamas, I will be the happiest camper on the planet. And not to say that I don't love my mom, but where she grew up, it's very crime-ridden, and people end up stealing bikes and stealing jewelry and stealing everything else. I mean, my family lives in a gated community, but I can see how your story impacted you as a 6-year-old, because if you're not careful where you step in these crime-ridden countries like Colombia or like Nassau, Bahamas, you can turn around and in 2 seconds flat. have everything taken away from you.
Mm. Yeah, and crime, of course, exists everywhere. So you just have to know the area. You have to know, gauge, what you can and cannot do just based on what you know, right? So in certain, in certain cities here in the U.S., you just have to be careful in those certain parts of the cities. So, of course, it exists everywhere. It's just a matter of knowing, and being aware.
And now I know that before we talked about your experience of getting robbed and your experience of writing that book, I know you said, I have a question for you, and you started out, I want to hear more, and then I went on to talk about your experience of you writing about you getting robbed as a child in the book with your parents.
Mm-hmm. So you want to hear more about that? Oh, I didn't understand. Sorry.
You want to hear more from me about my experience with money?
Sure. Well, tell me a little bit. Obviously, you and your father have a very open conversation on money, so that is absolutely fantastic. So share with me a little bit how you grew up around money, what you saw and what you heard, what you experienced.
Well, I am the opposite side of the spectrum. For those of you that don't know this fact about me, I am lucky to be gainfully employed because I have a disability as well. That disability is ataxia spastic cerebral palsy. That's its full name. You can call it CP for short, CP, aka cerebral palsy. But I actually have been gainfully employed in the education field for 8 years. I was supposed to take a gap year the year after next, but I have decided, because it's only 1 day a week and making money empowers me, I have decided to keep my job for the next 8 years because I have decided that I'm a motivational speaker who teaches on the side because I think empowering women to make money and to go out there into the workforce and inspire others is a great thing. And so I grew up, and I happen to have a trust fund, which is being set up right now. And so this trust fund was given to me by my grandfather on my mom's side because we did so well in Caterpillar tractors. We founded franchises of Caterpillar tractors in Canada and the Bahamas, and didn't close that company until 1998. And so, unbeknownst to me, when I was 17, I heard talk about the trust fund, and this is where I sit. So I have the luxury of looking, but still having a trust fund, and no, it's not for my books. It's to keep me going and to keep my mental healthy and to keep me up and running and paying my aids and pay for health insurance out of that. But I am also myself. I'm a podcaster, and I'm gainfully employed, even though it's 1 day a week. And so, yeah, that's my experience about money, and I'm blessed to have money. And as I said, I have open conversations about money with my dad all the time. So and I'm a millennial. So with the problem with being millennial is that people think we're lazy. People think the millennial generation is that we're lazy, we like to work in the gig economy, and that's true, but I like having my full-time job, even though my full-time job doesn't cover my health insurance and they don't give me a 401k, I have got the luxury of my trust fund. I even set up a 401k via Acorn, which is a spending app. You can hook it up to your PayPal, and automatically, if you have a PayPal balance, it says invest with Acorn, and you can automatically put your PayPal balance in Acorn, and so it's a set and forget it thing. So far, I've invested $25 in both accounts, but at least it's something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you're doing. Like I mentioned, I love all that you have accomplished and that you are wanting, and if I understood right, one of the things that you're wanting to do is motivate others that are in similar positions as you, to go out there and make money and just make it happen. And that absolutely, because that's what I understood, which I absolutely love, because you can.
Exactly. That's my motivation, was to get.
That is amazing.
Well, thank you, Jen, but that's my motivation in life. And I'm sorry to put it this way, but I want to get these lazy millennials off their asses and quit thinking that the gig economy is, even though education is not job security because it's a year-to-year thing, I still have my books. I started my books when I was volunteering because I thought I need to make money. If this is going to be the rest of my life. Volunteering can't put food on the table, and volunteering can't pay rent, even though I have the luxuries of not paying rent. Thank you very much, Dad. And I have the luxuries of not figuring out how I'm going to eat. Thank you very much, Dad, again. But I still want to make my own money. I still want to pay my own taxes. My dad doesn't even help me with my taxes. And when I thought about it, it's like, what? You're going to pay higher in self-employment taxes if you do gap year and then decide, oh, this is too tough. Where's my cushy day job? So I might as well extend my contract until I retire. And then, because it's only 1 day a week, because I have to go into the classroom 1 day a week to inspire the next generation. And they don't know how lucky they are to be going to a private school. I'm lucky that I, as a student, went to that same private school, and it was a lot cheaper than I went there. And that being said, what is your best advice for the class of 2018 going off to college? And then I'm going to explain how I'm doing it, and then we're going to tie up this interview on a high note. Is FAFSA the best advice, or FAFSA being the United States Education Program, by the way? And it's FAFSA.org, and all you have to do is fill out the forms, click the school by ID, and then you there's a bunch of on there, and then and basically this school gives you their IDs on the website, or you can just ask the school, and then they say, did you file your taxes, plan to file, all that crap, and then they transfer your tax return over to the FAFSA form, and it's income-based. So Jen, from a financial sense, is FAFSA the best way to go, or is scholarships the best way to go?
Well, yeah, scholarships are a fantastic way to go. Depending on when you start the process, what your goals are when you go to the university, that type of thing, that really deems. There's a lot of scholarships, and you have to be willing to put the work to apply for them. And that's the thing. It's not just you find a scholarship. So you have to be willing to put the work. So that means you have to plan your time out to fill out the scholarship applications and make sure, because I actually, I was made aware of this recently because I have a son who's going to be a sophomore in high school. So I actually did an episode for those that are about to go to college or that, and I interviewed Miss Pam Andrews, and it's a fantastic episode. In that episode, we talked about really she helps students and families attain scholarships. That's her main thing, but it's a really complete program. And one of the things that she mentioned that I was like, and this is really important to know, is that when applying for scholarships, you really have to because she had an instance of a student who applied, I don't remember how many, what dollar amount in scholarships he or she got awarded. But the important piece of the story is that some of that were really tied to the schools themselves. So, to certain schools. So really, in essence, when he chose the school, or she, I think it was a he, when he chose the school that he was going to go to, the amount of scholarship money that he could use drastically, decreased. So it's really knowing where you can use the scholarship for. There were two terms, and I can't remember off the top of my head what she said, but it's on the podcast. So that's important to know. So yes, scholarships are important. And really the other piece, if for some reason you don't, you still have to pay out of pocket and you have to apply for student loans, do your due diligence. Educate yourself on the different types of student loans. There's private, there's federal. What are the pros and cons to each? You need to definitely understand those. I actually did a podcast interview, and we split it in two because it was such awesome information on there. And so that piece. And then the third piece that I would say is really start thinking about what your monthly expenses can be. So you can start creating a budget so you understand what it's going to take to live. Are you going to be in the dorms? Are you going to be living in an apartment? Groceries, toiletries, those type of things. Food, obviously. Well, I just said groceries, right? So you have to really think ahead as far as what are my monthly expenses. What would they look like? You're not going to know exactly, but you can project based on what your plan is. If it's going to be in the dorms, if it's going to be living in an apartment and so forth. So that's the other part, is really learning about how to budget, projecting what your expenses could be, and really sticking to that plan, because you may get scholarships, you may get the financial aid, the student loans, but you still have to know how to manage that money. And because if you don't, you might end up taking out more student loans, and you don't want to do that for sure.
I have one student loan at a fixed rate because it's federal. It's not private. It's through Naviant, and I plan to pay that. And I'm just planning this with Jen Hemphill on this podcast. I plan to pay that off by September 22nd, 2018, even though I don't graduate until 2020 with my associate's degree. Then I decided to go get my MSA in creative writing, but I decided to pick a school with a ton of scholarships. So then if I have to go on student loans, again, I will, but I decided to pick Basalt University that has a ton of scholarships, and because I have college credits already, it's cheaper for me to go to these schools because some of my classes may transfer in. That's a trick that I learned, that 6 of my classes transferred in, and now transferring in all depends on the school. And all depends on the school. I transferred from Concordia University to the Academy of Arts, and I was lucky enough that the transfer rate transferred in 6 credits, so that made my tuition just a little bit cheaper, but I still have to pay out of pocket $839 for fall classes.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things my dad said to me is, he said, if you want to do this project, I'm allowing you to go back to school, but you have to apply for FAFSA. And we were in the car, and we were going to my workout at the time, and that wasn't an expensive gym membership either. And I said, I am applying for FAFSA as soon as I get home. He goes, I'll let you go back to school, but you have to apply for FAFSA. And the first time around, I'm really lucky because I went to a in-state school to get my education degree, and he paid out of pocket for my education. My dad did.
Awesome.
And my mom did also. And so I said, if you want to go, and he knows I have a degree in education, he said, if you want to go back to school, I'm allowing you, but you have to apply for FAFSA. That was his rule, and I said, okay, because I got lucky the first time I got it, will apply for FAFSA, and you can't do it on a trust fund. I know that. You can't do it on a trust fund. So as soon as my trust fund goes, my FAFSA will be out the door because it's need-based, but I'm going to apply for scholarships the third time around, just to finish out my degree. So there are my tips for you guys. FAFSA is wonderful, and applying for scholarships is wonderful. And Jen, I wish you the best of luck, and you're going to have to send me your website because I cannot find Her Money Matters in this podcasting app. I'll look once we get off the phone, but you're going to have to send me a link to the podcast because now I need my financial detox. I need help, as we all do. You may think I have a trust fund, and I do. You may think I'm gifted a $2,000 e-bike, and I was, but I still need financial help, and Jen is the person to do it. We all do. We all do.
Yes, we all do.
And give a big hug to your husband. I appreciate what he's doing.
Thank you so much.
I definitely appreciate what he's doing. And I also wanted to give a tip to you. There's a website out there called Zetterati, and what Zetterati does is pairs mentees up with mentors, and basically the mentors were in the active military, so you may want to look into Zetterati to volunteer your financial sense on Zetterati, because there's a lot of men out there volunteering there, but there's very few women.
Interesting. I'll have to look it up. So I definitely appreciate you having me. It's been an honor for sure, and I enjoyed our talk.
It's been an honor for me too. And you guys, if you hear a little fangirl in me, that's why, because I've been waiting for this interview. And so, and this interview should be released tomorrow. And please go listen to Her Money Matters, and please shoot Jen's book up. That's the number one, because Jen will be jumping out of his skin if my team does that. And I know, being a single mom with your husband in the military is tough, and you want to bury your head in the sand too. So, and if you don't mind me asking this final question. Where's your husband deployed to?
Oh, he was. This was before. He is back. So he's no longer deployed.
Well,
yes, he is back for sure.
Right. He's back.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
And also, here's another tip for you guys. Most schools, that being said, most schools accept the GI Bill. My grandfather, after fighting the beaches of Hemphill in World War I, went back to Harvard on the GI Bill. So most schools, and this was in the 60s, so I don't know what the GI Bill covers now, but most schools cover the GI Bill. I don't think
there's stipulations. There's certain things, but it's a good program.
I know that I couldn't get it because I know that spouses could get it, but I don't think that the next generation could get it. I wish I could use that excuse, but that's perfectly fine. So if those are two options for you guys. FAFSA is the more common one, and then the GI Bill. But as Jen said, there's stipulations, and you have to read the paperwork carefully. And so, Jen, it's been a true honor. I'm going to let you get back to creating amazing work, and you have a new fan of Her Money Matters again, because I need that financial dose of inspiration. And Jen, it's been a true honor, and I hope you guys enjoyed the open conversation about money. And please, 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 please don't be scared to talk about money. Jen and I just did it, and Jen does it all the time on her podcast. And please get FAFSA and get scholarships, and then your parents will be happy that you took the initiative. So that's my PSA. I want all these kids to jump on FAFSA's website and see what they can do and apply for scholarships starting today, even though it's August, but scholarships are open all year round. And so please, please, please set yourself up for the financial success you guys deserve. And I hope you enjoyed another fabulous episode of Ask Win. Thanks to you guys.
Thank you.